Wait for it. Wait. They changed color. So, you know, Ahsoka had green lightsabers in the Clone Wars. And then in the final season, Anakin gave her lightsabers back to her, and he changed them to blue. So I have lightsabers that change color. So here, let's change them back to green here. Lightsabers just make me happy. Speaking of International Day of Happiness, lightsabers just make me happy. Do they make you guys happy? Like every single time I turn them on, my face just gets so excited.
Me being the voice of Ahsoka didn't exist. I mean, and as an actress, when I was cast as Ahsoka, I very quickly realized I felt like I'd won the lottery. And, you know, I knew, first of all, I thought Star Wars was done. Like, I thought George Lucas was done making Star Wars. And so when I found out about the Clone Wars, and then when I found out that I was going to be voicing Ahsoka, I was blown away. And I realized that this was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get to originate a Star Wars character. And since that day, you know, 14 years ago, when I first was cast as Ahsoka, I mean, I made a vow. Somebody told me that it would change my life forever, and it did. And I made a vow that I would always, you know, wake up every day to try to live up to the opportunity that had been given to me. And I take it very seriously. I do not take it lightly, and I view it as such a privilege. And you know, back then, I had no idea that Ahsoka would become what she is today, and that she would mean so much to people like, you know, she does today. But I see that, and you know, there's a reason I've dedicated the past 14 years of my life to her, because, you know, this is the type of role that doesn't come around. You know, you're lucky if it comes around once in your lifetime. And I view it as a privilege. I wake up every day and I think, okay, what more can I do? Like, I often ask myself, what would Ahsoka do? Because I so badly want to represent her, even in real life.
I was getting ready to get out of the business because there was no future in it, and it was too sporadic. I wasn't in the union, which you had to be. And then I heard that George Lucas was doing a space film, and down in LA somewhere, and some friends of mine and I heard from him, and they went and visited him about doing the effects, and the film ended up being Star Wars. And they didn't agree on the way to do it. My friends didn't agree on the way George wanted to do it. And so that was probably the end of that. And then later on, the company at that time I was working for shut down, which was happening all the time. And I just tried to get on to Star Wars and found out a guy who was working on it, contacted him, and went for an interview and got the job as a cameraman, loading the camera and everything. And I was really interested in it because I had done what I call the old school special effects, which was big models, you know, forced perspective, stop motion, anything that you could kind of do without technology, but a lot of craftsmanship to be able to make stuff work. You had to be able to light, you know, a nickel to look like a silver dollar. All the tricks that you can do with anything with this limited tool set. However, the group that George had gotten, head by John Dykstra, were doing new technology, and they were doing stuff that a few years before it's come over here from 2001. And I really wanted to get to know that because I didn't know anything about that technology. I knew nobody working on those movies because they weren't making many. There were a few, but not very many. So I really wanted to get on the show. And it was pretty scary because I knew nobody on it. And there was in Van Nuys, kind of still down in LA, no idea where this was going to lead. Was I going to be any good in it? Because I just knew the old school work. But it turns out that nobody really knew anything because John was putting together this really fancy motion control system that allowed incredible shots when you shoot various elements with camera moves that are all kind of fake. It's like a big animation stand. Imagine, you know, the Disney animation stand back, sort of down vertical or horizontal instead. And instead of shooting animation cells, they were shooting models, and the camera could move, but the camera wasn't stiff. It could fly all over the place and shoot the model, moving all over the place at very slow speeds. So that's sort of what I got into it, and I just really, and John was right. He thought my stop motion background, I'd be able to pre-visualize what these shots, these elements look like, and I was really good at it. And just stuck with George for decades. Oh man, that was a really exciting time. Well, we had to move up here. George wanted to was living up here in Muren, and said, "Come on up if you want to come." And I raised my hand, and my friends did. A few of us moved up, probably about maybe 15 or so moved up from LA that had worked on the first show. And it was terribly exciting. I mean, we're working on the sequel to a huge movie, and getting into Marin County and the weather and the people and the attitudes and the fern bars and all that. And when we got on it, we were just really excited, you know, and the ideas George had for it. He has a lot of artwork that you, I'm sure, have seen for Empire. Was just unbelievable to see this stuff, you know, the walkers and the tauntaun, the space battles and the asteroid sequence and Cloud City, and it goes on and on and on. He just put everything into that. The imagination that was in that show was unheard of, you know, and you could never get bored with a story like that. And Yoda, where'd Yoda come from? When you got like a new thing going on every 10 minutes and a new place to go to, you know, every 15 minutes, you know, I mean, what a great idea. And then he pulled it all together as, you know, an act 2 of a 3-part opera, you know, and it was terrific. So we were really excited. It took forever to do it. It was harder than we had done in Star Wars. We hired a lot of local people and spent the time training them so that they could, you know, use the tools. We improved the tools, made the track camera longer, and got more optical printers together, improved the comping process. The models were built, were streamlined them if we could. And, you know, everybody brought 110 or 120 or 150% of what they'd done in LA to it. And you hear that a million times, but that's so important to the success of something. So when you get onto something, to be enthusiastic about it. And then we barely got it done in time. I mean, just barely. And we were just, you know, thrilled at the response to it also. And being able to work on it was great. I worked with Tony Baxter, Tom Fitzgerald guys. Some of them are still around working there. And it was great getting in to see the behind the scenes, working with the Imagineering. It was WED at that time. I don't know if it still is or not. But it was just amazing seeing the combination of machinery and repeatability and crowd control and the pre-ride and the post exiting or whatever necessary to keep this flow going and not break down, which is totally different, of course, than a movie, totally. And it was fascinating, really fascinating working on that, especially on Star Tours. You know, so and then the idea behind that, having it to be a continuous, I don't know, 4-minute front motion view out the window of that pod was very, very hard to conceive, or just to conceive and then and make it understandable, because you could never cut away. So everything had to like either exit the view out of the front or enter the view, or you could turn a little bit and then see something you hadn't seen before. But it all had to be sort of thought out and then timed emotionally. So you had time to respond to something before, you know, the pilot maybe recognized what was happening. So the audience could pick it up before the guy said anything, or you could mislead them by saying, you know, oh, we're just going to turn around right now, but you're turning too far and you come into something else. You know, anything you could do to keep it fun and misleading was always nice on that. And we started that misleading thing at the beginning by saying, okay, you're here. We're going to have like 4 or 5 or 6 different places you can go to. And you're lucky because you're going to go to Endor and get to meet the Ewoks, knowing that every kid in there did not want to do that. They want the action. So it was intentionally misled from the start. And then, of course, the way the original tour went, you went off in the wrong direction by mistake and ended up, you know, and with all this incredible danger going on all over the place, and you're in the middle of a space battle and ice field and everything else.
You know, in Star Tours, my memory of Star Tours, which is, you know, the motion base, and then you know, whoever was programming the movement of the motion base decided to maybe crank it up a little bit to impress the bigwigs when, you know, the George Lucas's and Eisner's were sitting in the thing, and it overloaded, and when it went into hyperspace, the thing goes back like this to make you feel the G-force, and then it broke. So the lights went off and the whole thing with all these, you know, billionaires sitting in a dark metal cabin until a ladder had to come and take them out. So there's a physicality to theme park shows that's different than movies. Well, Galaxy's Edge was the most recent thing, and sadly, it's not open in Anaheim. It's open in Florida. But that's the buzzword now is immersive. So when you go into Galaxy's Edge, you feel like you're entering the Star Wars world. So everything makes a sound, including the ambiances. So during the day, morning, midday, afternoon, evening, the ambiances are made up. They're playing through speakers, and they shift with the day. So you get this artificial, and we had fun with it. So during the day, I had small creatures. You would hear little skittering Star Wars-y kind of creatures and vocals sort of going through the brush. And then in the evening, if anyone goes there, listen in the evening, I put bantha-sized creatures kind of going, big footsteps and groans going off in the distance. My goal was I wanted little kids to run into the vegetation and their parents have to yank them back because they want to go see the bantha or whatever it might be, but it's all fake. A lot of it is designed to take advantage of what sound can do to make a world. The other fun part is it's supposed to be a spaceport. So we have speakers, Disney engineers put speakers throughout the land, and we could put spaceship flyovers that go from, it's like you're at an airport, right? And I swear there's nothing visually up there, but everyone swears, they kind of look up and I just missed it, but that must have been a really amazing spaceship going by. So that's another thing I've never done that before. That future immersive theme park stuff is, it's creating a movie in real life. Because the Galaxy's Edge is the most immersive thing. So there are things like there are these pipes, giant pipes in Galaxy's Edge, and we put the sound of like creatures and gurgling water going through them every once in a while. So we had to time out how often we wanted that to happen to try to make it not repetitive for standing there for a long time. But if you randomly come across it and you hear it, you think everything is kind of just a pipe sitting there, and then you hear this, that could be really fun. So you don't have control, which is kind of the fun of it. You time things out so that people might see. The Disney parks, they do it. There's like Goofy taking a shower in Main Street. There's all sorts of little sound details that go back to the beginning of Disneyland that are part of that you only hear if you happen to be there and pay attention. The souk in Galaxy's Edge, there's a marketplace they call the souk, and there are these windows up top. We put little storylines in there with Wookiee characters and robots, and there's I think it's Wookiees that are we pretended they were I think Wookiees assembling like an IKEA piece of furniture with some drills and arguing about it. So there are storylines going on all the time, and you just, it's fun. It's like an Easter egg, in reality. You put these little details in, and if people come across them, then that's fantastic. And the fun of it is that I don't have any control over what the theme park goer is going to do.
Getting on SNL was, something that I wanted my entire life, and I still can't believe it happened. And when I got there, I used a lot of it to make Star Wars stuff, and yeah, I think the only time in my career that I have called my agents and been like, hey, can you get me an audition for this, like this specific thing, was Star Wars Rebels. I loved it, and I had just started doing some voiceover stuff, and I thought Dave Filoni was just a genius, and I just wanted to work with him. So I sent them an email saying, like, if you ever have anything to audition for, I would love to. And they sent me an audition. I didn't get it, and I remember reading this and going like, this is very nice of them. They sent this to me, but I'm not right for this part. And I read for it, and I wasn't right for it, and I didn't get it, and rightfully so. And I was kind of glad, but not glad. I was obviously devastated, but I was glad that I didn't screw up my chance, kind of. And then Dave sent me a very nice message saying, hey, it didn't work out on this one, but I'll keep my eye out. And then one day I got a script for something called Project Zero, and I started reading it, and I was like, I'm too much of a fan to not know what this is. And it was Resistance. It was Star Wars Resistance, and the characters were Oscar and Felix, not Orka and Flix, in the script, and it was just kind of the odd couple. And I got very, very lucky to go in and audition with Jim Rash, and I think to this day, I think that's why we got it, because I had known Jim very loosely through Taron Killam. I'd met him a couple times, and then when I saw him at the audition, I'm a fan, so I was just happy to see him, and we hit it off, and we had a great audition. I went like, oh, that was great. Like, even if I don't get this, at least I got to see Jim again. And I think we just hit it off perfectly in that moment, and I think that's what they liked about it. And now I'm in Star Wars, and I spent too much money making an action figure of my character.
That's a perfect thing to kind of throw money at.
Yeah.
But is it are you and Jim able to record in the same booth and kind of like play off each other? I know
We
that's rare
did.
to do that.
Yeah, it is rare. I've only done it. I feel like I've had a couple jobs now, but I've only done that with other people on a few of them, a handful of them. Resistance, me and Jim mostly did all of our stuff together. A lot of it we got to improvise, and they used it, and it was amazing. I was in Inside Out, and I got to do. It was me and Paula Poundstone, and we got to do all our stuff together. I just did a cartoon called Lofi that was partially improvised, so we got to record together in the same booth. But that's rare. I feel like it's rare.